If y'all haven't seen our recap of Beauty and Black Season 1, check out our playlist, otherwise this Season 2 recap will be hard to follow. In the most basic recap, Beauty and Black follows a rich family that owns a very profitable beauty company. Everyone in that family has been vying for the most shares and inheritance. Horace, the head of the family, has cancer and is slowly dying. And in a last-ditch effort to piss off the family, he marries Kimmie and makes her CEO. After the announcement, Kimmie is shocked. She doesn't even know how to check her credit score, let alone run a company. She is also aware that after her marriage with Horace, the family will be pissed. Horace guarantees her that both Sylvie, Kimmie's sister, and her friend Rain will be safe. Horace also wants to protect Angel because Horace is a fruit roll-up and has a thing for Latino men. He tells them they can use Alex, Jules' driver. Alex is a real cop who just got caught up with Jules. Outside the room, everyone wants to know who Kimmie is. They're worried that when cancer finally takes Horace's life, they'll be left to deal with Kimmie. Not only do they despise having her be part of the family, but now she is their new boss. Even Jules can't say anything when Kimmie demands to be addressed as Mrs. Bellarie. Mallory quickly introduces herself to get on Kimmie's good side. Charles recognizes that Kimmie is from the strip club. Later, Mallory mocks Roy, saying that Jules played him. Jules gave him Kimmie to play with, and now she's his stepmother. May this relationship leave me on red. The couple knows that if something bad happens to Kimmie, they will all get kicked out of the will. Horace orders attorney Varney to put Angel, Sylvie, and Rain all in his will. This is to ensure their safety. Kimmie doesn't know if he can trust Varney, so Horace explains that he has another firm verifying everything that Varney reports. He warns Kimmie that she shouldn't trust anyone in the family. Then Kimmie says that when she was running away from Jules, the car she stole had a dead man in the back seat. The man was the father-in-law of a man named Daniel Lakeland. The car was in the garage, so Angel went to check it. Horace worries for the little cute Latino boy, so he tells Kimmie to go to the house, and he will have the car checked. Meanwhile, Varney calls his boyfriend Charles, who has given up hope on running the company, so he wants to go out looking for booty tonight.
I also think I want Chinese tonight.
Varney is tired of Charles not taking anything seriously. Then after Rain has recovered from her back alley BBL, a doctor tells her how to care for her deflated butt. Rain and Sylvie are excited about their new mansion. Kimmie says she don't trust their new driver, Alex. They know he works for Jules. They interrogate Alex and wonder what his background is. Sylvie thinks he's Japanese. Alex says he's black and Dutch.
See? Nigga. Japa nigga.
While they talk in code about the strip club, to keep Sylvie from finding out that Kimmie was a stripper, Kimmie is shocked to learn that Body is still alive and in the hospital. Kimmie and Rain say they need to pay Body a visit. Meanwhile, Olivia and Norman are wondering how they're going to deal with Horace's marriage to Kimmie. They get even more angry when they find out that Horace just added more people to his will. When Charles hears Angel's name, he reveals that Angel also works at the strip club with Kimmie. Olivia wants to contest the marriage and make it look like Horace wasn't in his right mind, but Horace took a cognitive test and was already one step ahead. Varney also announces that Horace protected his shares but diluted the shares of the members of his family. As the eldest son, he can have 10% from the shares of each family member. Olivia is livid because now she'll be middle class. Mallory has always talked to Varney respectfully, but Roy still thinks that Varney and Mallory are breaking each other's backs, so he doesn't even want attorney Varney around. Pissed, Mallory reminds Roy that him and his father were eating the same kitty, but little do they know, Horace don't swing that way anymore. Even more annoyed, Mallory brings up Roy's ED, and he doesn't have an eating disorder. Jules tells Mallory that he'll talk to Roy himself. When it's just them, Roy finally confronts Jules. He thinks that Jules was the one who gave Kimmie to Horace, but Jules insists it wasn't him. Then he promises Roy that he has a new woman to give him. When Angel is taken to the police station, Officer tracks and sees him, so he immediately reports it to Jules. Wanting to know more information about Kimmie, Mallory calls Felicia from the club, but Felicia refuses to talk unless Mallory pays her first. Mallory says she knows Felicia needs the money.
I also know that your throat is sore when you do and you need a trip to the clinic.
Felicia is over it, so she says, "Bye, Felicia," and hangs up. So Mallory tells Siri to redial her 10,000 times. When Varney tells Charles that $8 million is taken from his shares, Charles couldn't care less. So Varney explains to Charles that the monthly allowance he can spend every month is based on how much his shares are. And soon he won't be able to afford the house or his cars or his lavish lifestyle. But Charles still doesn't care. He just wants attorney Varney to fix the problem for him. Then Charles just wants a good dick down, and Varney can't help it, because Charles is derriere too good. When Kimmie, Sylvie, and Rain arrive at Horace's house, they can't help but feel overwhelmed because they used to live in Motel 6. James, the butler, welcomes them and introduces the rest of the staff. They got their own chef, and there's even a foine cowboy. Who dat in the back? Sylvie notices a small shack nearby, and James reveals that it was the house Horace's father grew up in. He added that Horace's great-grandfather was a slave, and then he got to buy the massive land property. Somewhere in the property, Varney is busy enjoying Charles. He even tells Charles how much he loves him, but nothing can keep Charles from sleeping with other men or going out, even tonight. He wants more than one load inside him. Upon hearing this, Varney gets angry and walks out. He's surprised when he sees Roy standing just outside the door. Since Roy thought Varney was doing his wife, Roy's flabbers were gasted. Even though Roy already knows what Varney is doing inside with Charles, Varney still tries to lie, but Charles doesn't even try to hide it. Varney panics, knowing his job is on the line. He suspects that Charles might have set him up and told Roy to come over, but Charles says he wouldn't do such a thing. But Roy is smart enough to know that he can use this as leverage. He threatens Varney that he will tell the truth to his father. Varney begs him not to. Roy takes a step back because he can smell his brother's D in Varney's mouth. Then Roy starts to list down his demands. He starts with asking that he keep all of his shares, and then he wants Kimmie out of the house. Now that he knows a big secret, Roy starts to call attorney Varney his bitch.
Say it again! I'm your bitch!
Varney is furious, but can't do anything about it. James gives Sylvie, Rain, and Kimmie a tour of the house. She's even more surprised when James hands her her own black card, saying that they opened a new bank account for her. Because it's all happening too fast, Kimmie is a bit nervous. But Rain tells her to enjoy the moment. The two friends also decide to stash some money on the side so when things go south, they will have money to use. As they're about to go shopping, Rain says,
We gonna swipe the black off this bitch.
Mallory wants to go out and is annoyed when she finds out that Calvin is no longer her driver. She blames Roy for this, but Roy refuses to allow Calvin to return. Roy also reveals to Mallory that he saw Charles on all fours with Varney, but Mallory thinks Roy is just lying. As promised, Jules sends her a new driver, Andy, but Mallory doesn't even want Andy to drive her because she enjoyed the extra perks from Calvin. Girl, Andy foine too. Let him eat that kitty. So Jules orders Andy to follow Mallory and report all her actions to him. Officer Traxon contacts Alex to confirm if the rumors are true. Alex shares that Kimmie is indeed his new boss after Horace married her. Then Officer Traxon tells him that Angel is in the police station. They both agree to do everything to stay on Jules' good side. They know that they owe Jules a lot and they will get in trouble if they disappoint him. Just then, Jules calls Alex. He wants to know if Alex is still loyal to him, so Alex assures him that he is. Then Jules orders Alex to monitor Kimmie and give him an update on everything that she does. Alex is dumbfounded when he realizes that Kimmie heard the conversation. However, Alex is very honest about it. He doesn't hide the fact that Jules ordered him to spy on Kimmie. Kimmie appreciates the honesty, and Alex says he too wants out of the Bellarie mess. Big Back Judge Harold visits Horace in the hospital. Horace confronts him about laundering the money at the club for Daniel Lakeland. Horace knows that Harold and Norman are working together in this scheme, so Horace also uses this as leverage. He calls Daniel Lakeland to tell him that his new wife, Kimmie, took the car, unaware that Daniel's father-in-law was in the back seat. Horace agrees to leave Daniel alone if Daniel agrees to stop chasing Kimmie. Daniel agrees, but he wants someone to blame because he knows his wife will look for the culprit. Judge Harold says there was a man, a gangster, who was found in the car and is now in custody. Horace agrees to let this man take the blame just to save Kimmie. Isn't that man Angel, though? Meanwhile, Mallory meets up with Felicia to personally hand her the money.
I know you don't know me, but I'm surprised you can count.
After receiving the cash, Felicia starts to talk. She reveals that Jules is their pimp who caught them all doing something illegal. Jules made them face a judge to manipulate their record so they won't end up in prison. And that is how they all ended up working for Jules at the strip club. Mallory also learns that Horace was seen at the club as well. Felicia says he old, but Horace can get it.
Anybody can get it from you.
As soon as Mallory walks out, she catches Foy and Andy watching her. She takes his phone, knowing that it is Jules on the other end. Jules is cornered. Mallory mocks him, saying Andy is not doing a good job spying on her. Kimmie receives a call from Horace, telling her that the car situation has been handled. Kimmie is grateful, but she still doubts Horace. She also shares that they still don't know where Angel is. Alex overhears the conversation, but he doesn't reveal he knows where Angel is. When Kimmie mentions that Horace is still very sick, Sylvie tells her that there is a clinic in Thailand that treats cancer. But Kimmie assumes that Horace has already done everything he could to get well. Jules finally arrives at the police station. He tells Angel that he's in big trouble after stealing a car. But the fine Angel insists that he didn't steal the car and proceeds to ask for a lawyer. But Jules reminds him that he's not really American and just came to the country when he was 4. Jules even threatens to send Angel back to the Dominican Republic. Still, Angel refuses to talk. That's when Jules shows Angel a picture of his daughter, Yolanda. Jules warns Angel that he will send Officer Traxon to see Angel's children if Angel refuses to reveal what he knows about Kimmie and Horace. Instead of getting scared, Angel reminds Jules that he too has a daughter. Jules gets angry when Angel threatens his daughter. He tells Officer Traxon to make the visit and to send him a video. Angel changes his mind and begs Jules for one more chance, but it's too late. As Kimmie enters a luxury store, things start to become clearer to her. Not only does she have a credit card, but also a debit card. The Bellaries have their own bank, and Rain wonders how much money Kimmie has access to.
We rich, bitch.
Rain decides they should buy 2 of each piece of clothing, one to wear and the other one to sell. She reminds Kimmie they have to put money on the side just to be safe. After shopping, Kimmie and Rain, now all dressed up, head to the bank to find out how much money Kimmie has access to. The 2 friends are shocked when they learn that Kimmie has $1.5 million in the checking account and another $1.7 million in savings. All in her name because it's a single account. Rain quickly asks to withdraw the money in 20s and 10s, but Kimmie butts in. Kimmie then asks the manager, Quayla, to open 2 extra accounts, one for Sylvie and another for Rain. She wants $500,000 in each account. Wanting to get Kimmie's trust, Alex reveals that Angel is in jail. Kimmie notifies Horace, and that's when Horace realizes that he unknowingly gave the authority to kill Angel. As Angel waits at the bus stop, a hooded man rains bullets on him and the others. No, not the eye candy. These were just the first 2 episodes of Season 2. What did y'all think, and should we cover all 8 episodes?
Hey, if you like this video, make sure you subscribe now and turn on the notification because YouTube isn't recommending my videos. And if you like to watch more foolishness, click here or here.